Hey guys, Fletch Football Observer here, and today's video is going to be a Premier League preview show previewing Game 13 of the 2019-2020 season. The final international break of the year is over. Club football returns this weekend, and it's throwing up some big encounters, some exciting encounters, and some encounters that will have a heavy impact upon the Premier League table. So without further ado, let's get into the predictions. And we're going to begin with arguably the biggest game of this round of fixtures, and it's Pep Guardiola versus Frank Lampard as Manchester City entertain Chelsea at the Etihad Stadium. Before the international break, there was deep frustration for Pep Guardiola and his side as City lost further ground in the table on league leaders Liverpool, as the Reds went 9 points clear of City following their 3-1 victory over the Premier League defending champions, whilst Chelsea are currently on a 6-game winning run, with their latest victory being a 2-0 victory over Crystal Palace last time out. Will City get back to winning ways here, or will Frank Lampard and Chelsea add to Guardiola's frustrations with a win in this game? This is set to be an exciting and open game of football. You've got City and Guardiola needing to chase Liverpool down, needing to go all out in games from now on, and then you have Chelsea scoring goals for fun, and they're beginning to look like a real team under Frank Lampard, and at times an exciting one to watch too. Both sides do have certain defensive issues, but are great going forward, and if that continues, this could be a high scoring fixture here. As far as a prediction goes from me, I honestly think we could be seeing a 2-2 draw here. I wouldn't be surprised which way this game goes, in all honesty. This is honestly a game that can go in any which way. I can argue that either side can go on and win it, but I'm going to call it right down the middle and say a draw, and say that Sergio Aguero and Tammy Abraham will both be on the score sheet for their respective clubs. Our next game brings us to one of the 6 3 o'clock fixtures to be played on Saturday, and given the history of this fixture, it's hard to understand why this isn't on TV. Selhurst Park plays host to Crystal Palace versus Liverpool, a clash that in the past has thrown up some big drama and a lot of goals. Last time out, Palace lost 2-0 to Chelsea, whilst Liverpool extended their lead at the top of the Premier League table by going 8 points clear with a 3-1 victory over Manchester City, and therefore still remain unbeaten in the league this season. Will Palace put an end to the Reds' unbeaten season, or will the Reds be victorious at a tough away ground? A fixture that's become rather notorious in recent seasons, a game that's proven to be a tough nut to crack for Liverpool at times, but somehow they've came through in recent meetings, albeit mostly in an unconvincing way. Liverpool possibly could be without a few key players for this game, which Palace could be looking as a potential weakness, but I think you'd still expect the Reds to get the job done here. Despite that, and despite the hostile and loud atmosphere that the Palace faithful create, I'm going to predict a 2-1 Liverpool win, with Sadio Mane getting on the score sheet for the Reds. Our next game brings us to the return of the special one to the Premier League, as Jose Mourinho takes charge of his first game as the new Tottenham manager, and he has a London derby to contend with as Spurs clash with West Ham at the London Stadium. Earlier this week, Mauricio Pochettino was sacked by Spurs and was immediately replaced by the Portuguese manager as a new era begins at Tottenham. As for West Ham, Manuel Pellegrini is under pressure himself, as West Ham are currently on a 6-game winless run, and many are sensing that his time as Hammers boss could be coming to an end sooner rather than later. Will Jose kick off his first game back in the Premier League with a victory, or will West Ham get back to winning ways and release a little bit of the pressure for at least another week on Manuel Pellegrini? It's a big game for both sides, this one, and of course this game obviously now has the Mourinho factor added into it, and I think from the Premier League's point of view, whether you like him or love him, I think it's actually good for the league itself to have a character like Jose Mourinho back in the Premier League. If you want to see my thoughts on Mourinho being the new Tottenham manager, then go check out the video I made earlier this week. But back to the game. The Hammers have pressure on them, and I'm sure the changing of the Spurs manager hasn't helped them in their preparations for this game. And with the growing amount of reports regarding the status of Manuel Pellegrini that have been coming out, I wouldn't like to be in his shoes right now. As far as a prediction for this fixture goes, I think the new manager bounce and that initial shot of adrenaline that Jose gives a team will shine through here, which is why I'm going to predict a 2-1 Spurs win. Our next game sees us off to the seaside as Brighton host high-flying Leicester at the Amex Stadium. The Seagulls lost their last game prior to the international break, where they were defeated by Manchester United 3-1 at Old Trafford, whilst Leicester currently sits second in the table with their last result being a 2-0 victory over Arsenal. Will Brighton get back to winning ways here, or will Leicester make it 5 league wins on the bounce? Brighton's mixed start to the season continues, but when you consider how close everyone outside of the top 4 are, one win can easily catapult you right up the table, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on here and going forward. As for the Foxes, this is a very good time to be a Leicester fan right now. They're currently sat in second and have got several really favourable fixtures coming up within the next month or so to keep up their high status within the Premier League table. As for this game though, I can honestly only see one winner, and that is Leicester. They're scoring plenty of goals and are defensively strong as well, and with that in mind, I'm going to predict a 2-0 Leicester win, with Jamie Vardy continuing his good scoring form. To another 3 o'clock game on Saturday now, and this one sees Bournemouth host Wolves at the Vitality Stadium. Bournemouth lost to Newcastle last time out, with the Magpies running out 2-1 winners over the Cherries, whilst Wolves were on the right end of a 2-1 scoreline themselves, having come out victorious of a West Midlands derby against Aston Villa. Will Bournemouth get back to winning ways here, or will Wolves extend their 7-game unbeaten run in this game? This game should be an open and exciting game between an inconsistent Bournemouth and a Wolves side who may have had a slow start to the season, but over recent weeks have been beginning to show signs of the form they displayed during the last campaign. A difficult game to call this one, it really could go either way, but I'm going to sit my neck out on the line and say I'm going to predict a 2-1 Wolves win here. I can honestly make a case and say that Bournemouth could manage to take something from this game, a point or something, but I'm going to give Wolves the edge here just because of Bournemouth's inconsistency. I also predict that Raul Jimenez will continue his good scoring form as of late. Our next game of focus features high-flying Sheffield United as they entertain Manchester United at Bramall Lane in Sunday afternoon's fixture. Before the international break, the Blades had surprised many with their 5th place status in the Premier League, with their last result being a 1-1 draw with Tottenham, whilst United's inconsistent season continued. The Red Devils are currently in 7th following their last result, which was a 3-1 victory over Brighton. Will Sheffield United continue their impressive season so far, or will United make it back-to-back wins in this game? Sheffield United have certainly surprised many with how well they've done so far this season, and full credit should go to Chris Wilder and everyone associated with the Blades for that. They've been a great watch so far this campaign, and I personally hope their good form continues. As for United, inconsistency surrounds this club. They can consider themselves a little fortunate that everyone else around them has had a similar start to the season than them. But as far as this game goes, it's another one that could go any which way. So I'm going to call it down the middle, and I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. Although, in that prediction, I'm not too confident in all honesty. The Hornets take on the Clarets in our next game of focus as Watford entertain Burnley at Vicarage Road. Last time out, Watford managed to pick up their first win of the season at the 12th time of asking, following a 2-0 victory over Norwich, whilst Burnley came out convincing 3-0 winners against West Ham. Will Watford put together back-to-back wins for the first time this season here, or will Burnley record their 5th win of their campaign so far? An interesting game lies ahead in this one between a Watford side who you'd imagine now should kick on with their season and rectify their poor early season form, and a Burnley side who, like most teams, are in an inconsistent campaign so far. Another game that could seriously go any which way, and with that being said, therefore, my prediction is a 1-1 draw. It could go any which way as I've said, so I'm calling it right down the middle, so don't be surprised whichever way this result goes. Our next game sees Everton host Norwich at Goodison Park. Everton and Marco Silva have been coming under increasing pressure in recent weeks, but the Portuguese manager may have earned a little more time following the results of previous weeks, including their latest result, which was a 2-1 victory over Southampton. But with December looming and some not so favourable fixtures on the horizon, it's going to be an interesting month ahead for the Toffees and their manager. Whilst Norwich are currently on a dismal run of form, no win in 7 games and bottom of the table, it hasn't been a great time for the Canaries at all. Will Everton add to Norwich's woes here, or will Norwich get back to winning ways and heap more pressure back onto Marco Silva and Everton? On paper, you'd think that this game should be an Everton victory, but this is an Everton side, so nothing's a certainty. Norwich could easily spring a performance like the one they displayed against Manchester City earlier on in the season, and it would be an understatement to say that they definitely need it sooner rather than later. I'm going to go with a safe prediction though here, and I'm going to say Everton will win. I wouldn't be completely surprised if Norwich managed to pick up a point from this game, but I do think that Everton will take the 3 points here, and I'm going to predict a 2-1 win to the Toffees. Our penultimate game on this list sees two managers that are under pressure clash at the Emirates Stadium as Unai Emery's Arsenal takes on Ralph Hasenhüttl's Southampton. No win in their last 4 games have seen Arsenal slip to 6th in the table. Add that to the poor and boring performances and already the Arsenal supporters are turning on Unai Emery, while Southampton sit 2nd from bottom and are on a 7-game winless streak themselves. Which side will get back to winning ways here and ease the pressure on their manager for at least another week? Quite clearly a big game for both sides here. It's got a lot riding on it as both sides are fighting for something this season that right now they're not on course for achieving. You mix the pressure in with the unpredictability and again the word inconsistency, and once again you have a fixture that's definitely difficult to call. I'm going to predict though that Arsenal will just edge this one. I think their attack will be too much for the Saints to handle, and therefore I'm predicting a 2-1 Gunners win here. And finally, we come to our final game on this list, and we go to the Monday night fixture where Aston Villa entertain Newcastle at Villa Park. Last time out, Villa were beaten by Wolves in the West Midlands derby, 2-1, whilst Newcastle were on the right side of a 2-1 victory themselves with a victory over Bournemouth in their last game. Will Villa get back to winning ways here, or will Newcastle make it 3 wins on the bounce in this game? Yet another game that could go either way. Villa have been pretty good to watch this season, their last game aside of course, whilst Newcastle have been a bit unpredictable. Some weeks they've been strong defensively and other times they've been weak. Interesting game ahead this one, difficult one to call. But I'm going to say 2-1 to Villa. I wouldn't be surprised whichever way this result goes, but I'm going to go with a home win in this game. And that wraps up this Premier League preview show for Game 13 of the 2019-2020 season. Guys, if you have any thoughts, comments or predictions of your own on any of this round's fixtures, let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things would be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch the Football Observer. This has been another Premier League preview show, and I will see and speak with you all again soon in another video.